Hello and welcome. This is Congruent Cast the Coup, and me, still the human. Do you deserve the things in your life? Who would decide such a thing? And what is deservedness? Why does the idea of a meritocracy give us hopes and dreams? One of the greatest myths that's never happened is meritocracy in the United States. It's something we've been taught that if you want to be something and you try hard enough, you can achieve anything at all. This is, of course, very far from the truth. It's a lie that we're fed from childhood, one that has very damaging consequences as it sets us up for a harsh realization of the actual truth. Well, meritocracy doesn't exist. It never existed. And likely, it never will exist. Of course, it plays deeply into the hands of the capitalistic system that we live in and helps normalize toxic behavior and damaging environments as we put our heads down and labor through life trying to reach something greater. Yet, there isn't a reward system in place, except one to the leading sociopaths who excel economically. And even still, the single most important factor for being a wealthy person is simply being born into wealth. Not to say that there's not outliers, but this factor almost all of it guarantees wealth and wealth accrual. So what is a meritocracy? It's a system in place in which those who deserve the most get the most. It's a system based on one's own merits. It also plays into the Western ideals around karma, the idea that you get what you deserve, what goes around comes around in the end, and everyone must pay. It's another lie, but one that reaches deep inside people, though it's just another possibility in life through this Gilded Age. It's easy to believe. It's so easy to believe. You can become anything if you just put your mind to it. You can do anything in life if you just believe. And yeah, if you're really lucky, sure. But for each person that excels, there are millions that lay wasted on the sidelines. For a large majority of people, we can try our hardest, do everything right, and still fail. That's not a reflection of the individual, but a reflection on the system as a whole. Yeah, because of this portrayal, it's so very easy to blame oneself or to find faults in ourselves. This failure isn't on us, though. It's truly on the system as a whole. We treat the capitalist machine of our economy as something that anyone can rise the ranks in. The starlight story of anyone could go from rags to riches. That story doesn't really exist, though, does it? When we put ourselves against life in this way, it's easy to see any shortcomings or variations as failures because we collectively have been fed that you can succeed if you try harder and do better. That if you're not succeeding how you envisioned it to be, you're the one at fault. Therefore, anything unsuccessful in a society is a personal failing rather than something tied to the flaws of our system. Another facet to this gem is that in a meritocracy, the best ideas would prevail. The best candidates in politics succeed, etc. In any given situation where we believe in a meritocracy of results, we create a structure that not only fails that idea, we also ignore its failings. The truth is that the loudest voices are heard and often are the ones that are successful. They can be the best ideas or choices, but often the loudest and the best are two different things. We live in a time where the wealth disparity between the 1% and the poorest among us is so off balance, it's truly disgusting. We could see a trillionaire, while at the same time, many people labor at the bottom of this hierarchy for less than $1 a day, and that's not success. It's a very small minority building empires on exploitation, mass and heavy exploitation. With a lack of humanity and the simple capability to value all life as something good. That's how you accrue massive mounds of billions and billions of dollars while watching millions or billions of people starve or be homeless or struggle to survive with disabilities. It isn't by being the best, but completely encompassing the worst in us. Greed that is cultivated, nourished, and grown to be an angry, snarling beast ready to take everything at any cost. Are they deserving of their fortunes? Are they deserving of their wealth? At what point are their actions going to be held against them? Where is the other side to that coin? If this were a meritocracy, where the best ideas come in on top and the most deserving of us were the models that we base our future on, how could it be built with blood? There is no meritocracy in America or in this world. It's a fancy bedtime story that we are fed as children and reinforced as adults over and over and over and over and over, and it never stops. Is that heavy propaganda or something that's beneficial? Because keeping the working and poverty classes in a hopeful state seems to be pretty beneficial to the ruling class. Those who succeed within our economic landscape often do so with an invisible foot of privilege ahead of the rest. Though even without that, the system as a whole is fit for specific types of people. Often, the more sociopathic a person is, the better they will be for management or high-level management. Brush away your feelings and tell the single mother of 3 that she is fired for being late because the bus had to go through a detour. Where's the humanity? When work is tied to people's living, where is the humanity? When we have to work to have shelter and food and water, and the less that you have empathy for that fact, the better you will be for managing them, where is the humanity when the company you own sources good from sweatshops or child labor? Where is the deservedness in this system? Aside from our own issues with dreams and hopes and pursuits of happiness, there is a basic flaw of even the idea of meritocracy. Equality is not equity. At the very heart of the concept of meritocracy is fairness of opportunity. We can at least see this within the ruling class to a degree, as they all have the same invisible privileges working for them, but for all? Equality of opportunity, even in a fictional world, is still very ableist and classist. Let's pretend it's in a vacuum. If everyone has the same opportunities, but some have hindrances, either physical or mental or both, then the fairness of opportunity might work less for these people. Equality of opportunity should not be something we strive for. We should focus on equity. But those who need a helping hand of sorts get that. We should be helping anyone who is less fortunate so that as a society, we can progress forward in the best possible ways. Instead, we promote the worst that humanity has to offer as we see the top billionaires race to space in some weird dick measuring contest. That's not a system that works. That's certainly not a meritocracy. It has no equality, let alone a dream of equity, and it's a sad and pitiful truth of what we have achieved in this age. But that doesn't mean that we should maintain hope for some mystical and magical system that doesn't exist. We can educate ourselves instead of blindly believing what our society tells us. This isn't a video to make anyone sad or feel hopeless, but to focus on awareness so that we can put our energy into reality instead of a pipe dream. Take a moment to consider those that are less fortunate in our world. If the poorest among us is the measure for a society, that's where we should put our concerns. We can lift up society by simply being empathetic and the best versions of ourselves. One of the strongest things this lie has created in our society is that we blame people in poverty for being in poverty because they must have gotten there by their own actions. It's ever so easy for people to write off those in poverty if we think the blame for their situation lay within themselves. Yet, just as those at the top got there by invisible help, those at the bottom could just as easily had invisible hindrances. How many people have enough comfort that if they lost their jobs, they could survive on savings? What does it take to accrue savings? When you have to fight to eat and have a home and every single penny matters, how do you save for possible future events where you need savings? Those who are homeless or starving are blamed within the idea of meritocracy, but in reality, they are just sacrifices to keep the infinite growth machine of capitalism churning. The people that fall behind are blamed for it. But as a collective, why would we give this thought? A large amount of the population does live paycheck to paycheck. Perhaps the force of not wanting to be wrong is greater than the others. We're taught and told so many things are just wrong and harmful our entire lives, and we don't want to admit that we've been living in those lies. Humans don't like admitting fault. We don't like to be wrong. If someone is wrong and they're spreading propaganda, it's easier to double down than to feel embarrassment or shame or any negative emotion because you could be wrong. But it's okay to be wrong. It's also okay to help people in need. And we all need help at times. And life is so much better when we build each other up rather than stick to our conditioned little lives in our pretty little boxes. Meritocracies are a myth. And that is a really good thing, because we should be focusing on lifting up the populations that need it and focusing on equity moving forward. Take care of yourselves, friends. Be kind to each other. Thanks for watching this episode of Congruent Crew. Bye-bye.